Welcome to the Home Center's Easter service. I'm going to begin this morning by saying what a beautiful and wonderful world we have. I'd like to tell you a little joke. What do you call a line of rabbits jumping backwards? A receding hairline. Now I'm going to ask Dick to come up and give our opening prayer.
Our opening prayer is from the Home Center Ministerial Team, our Minister of Prayer, Reverend Joe Pinecoffer. God, beauty is in everything that I behold, everything I do, and in everything I say. This is my Easter gift to my community and to the entire world. It is my Easter gift to myself. It is the gift from my heart. In love and light, it is so. Amen. And now I turn it back to Reverend Connie.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer. Although Easter is steeped in the use of symbols and celebrated as a holiday by many people throughout our world, its roots go back to the time that our ancestors worshiped nature. The pagans, as the Christians, derogatorily referred to these people who paid homage to the gods and goddesses of nature. For them, it was a time after the light had come back into the world to worship and to celebrate the coming of spring. When all of nature came back to life, you think of that time when the flowers began to come up and to bloom, the trees to put out their leaves, the birds to start singing, and for the young animals to be birthed. That was the time that they came together and celebrated, a time that they asked the goddess Estrella for her blessings, for their crops, for their seeds, to bring forth a fruitful harvest to feed the people. Out of these beginnings came the various traditions and symbols of Easter. Things such as wearing Easter bonnets, giving children baskets of candy and colored eggs, Easter egg hunts, and Easter lilies. The lilies actually came up at that time of year. In fact, I have some growing in my backyard right now. And the people saw them as a symbol for purity, honesty, and spirit in people. Another symbol that became popular was the use of candles, because candles represented the light, the return of the light, but later also they represented the Christ. And so churches would use candles. Last Easter I spoke in depth about these different symbols and how they came into existence. However, this morning I have chosen to talk about the dark and the light. There is a feeling of being lost and abandoned that is very real, but separation is not real. In truth, all humanity is linked. We're all a part of the great oneness, the all that is. They are intimately linked. We are all intimately linked to one another, to the Creator, and everything seen and unseen. Take and place that understanding in your heart, and no one and no thing can be separated from the whole ever. That was stated by the divine in a message given to a woman named Sarah. Sarah Wiseman is a psychic who channels what she calls the divine. And I'm going to be drawing on some information that she gave in an article she titled, "Don't Be Afraid of the Dark." It was featured in the April 2020 Sedona magazine. She says in this is happening to you and all around you. You can feel the suffering in the collective soul of humanity. Reverend Madge talked about the fact that there's this grief within us that hasn't been addressed. There is this suffering. There is this suffering of wanting something better, something more for ourselves than what we've been experiencing. In these dark times, I find it very, very helpful to stay connected to Source. And I do this through prayer, journaling, and various other spiritual practices, including grounding, taking time to ground. That's a very simple thing to do. Probably the simplest form of it is to simply take your shoes and socks off and walk on Mother Earth, the ground, the dirt, the grass. But staying connected. And every day I try to do these different spiritual practices to stay connected, to stay more positive. It helps me to be that way. Another thing I like to do is to send prayers out for our world, for our leaders, for different people, because this too helps me to send my light out into the world. Choosing to pray for the planet and humanity is something that we can all choose to do. We can choose to do whatever spiritual practices that we know of that help us to stay positive and centered in the light. Going back to the advice given by the divine, it says, in dark times, which are part of a continuous cycle, you can choose your way. If you do not have the practice of connecting to the light, you can lose your way if you do not have a practice of connecting to the light, connecting to Source. You might say that that Source has a name. Commonly, we call it God, but others call it by many different names. It doesn't matter what name you call it by. What matters most is that connection that you make to Source, and helps you to stay positive, and it helps you to know how to be in this world in a more positive, compassionate, loving way. This article goes on to state, as for darkness, let it rage. It will burn itself out soon. Trust this. Certainly this is also being stated right out there. You find it out there if you look for it. Right along, though, with the fear-based information that is being spouted out there predominantly by media sources. So you kind of have to go off channel to look for the more positive information, but it's there. It's also very important to use discernment. What rings true in your heart? And it's a time to really study what you're hearing, what you're listening to, what you're seeing, and using discernment. Because there is a lot of false information out there. There are many ways that the dark can deceive. And in our world of technology, it's very easy to manipulate what's put out there for you to see and hear. So take the time. Go into your heart, go into your light, and ask what is right for you. And like the Christ, we must say to those deceptions, get behind me. Instead call, let there be light. A key fact to remember is it is a time of tearing down and destruction of the old, outdated patterns that are no longer serving the higher good of humanity and this world. This tearing down is part of a cycle. The cycle goes through tearing down and back up into new growth, from darkness into light, from darkness into light. This is appropriate and part of the cycle the divine is speaking about. You're not in the middle of this cycle, the divine tells us. No, you are nearing the end. And relief is in sight. In other words, we need to have faith that all is not as it seems. There are things happening behind the scenes that most do not know that serve the light, the higher good. Trusting in the higher guidance of spirit, it's very valuable to call upon your guidance team, your angels, your guides, and as Reverend Jay says, your spooks. It is important to stay connected. Let your inner light, those warm, fuzzy feelings of the heart, lead the way rather than the head and the intellect. Do not be afraid. Trust that change is happening in all areas of our world. Education, medicine, politics, you name it. We're going through a big change. And when we get through it and come out the other end, just as Reverend Madge spoke about on Wednesday, the world's going to be a different place. It's going to be a better place. Better perhaps than it's ever been. Trust that change is happening, and trust that there's this new energy present. And the way of the global community is beginning to come back into connectedness. I found it very interesting when we had a short visit from our children today that my daughter-in-law and I discussed what supplies of food we had on hand and what we might be low in. Turned out that they were out of flour. I was running low on oatmeal. So we did an exchange. People will come together when they are pushed and help one another. And we're going to help one another through this tough time. And we're going to come out the other end shining. Sarah's message ends with this statement. For now, blaze the light. Refrain from drama. Keep yourself from despair. Connect hourly to the light within and without. Do not be afraid of the dark. It diminishes in every moment. Remember the words of Christ Jesus. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Because this is our world, and we need to heal it. And part of the way we heal is through forgiveness. It is time to let go of the despair and follow this Easter with a time of celebrating. Celebrate the light within yourself. Celebrate with your family. Celebrate with friends, however that's possible to do with the restrictions we have at this time. And know that this world will come to a better place. Just know that. And remember that light always overcomes dark. Let's take a moment now and go into meditation. I invite you to close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths and just let everything go. Let all of the concerns of the day, everything just let it go. So after you have come to this spot, I want you to take your attention down to your heart center. The heart center is actually located just below your collarbone. And let's begin to feel into this area of our bodies. It is in this area that we make our connection to spirit. This is often where people have said that the soul resides. So breathe in, take in life, breathe it in deeply, and let it go. And coming to this place, let's begin to feel a warmth. You can actually place your hand over this area if you want, and feel the warmth coming to this area. We're going to bring a ball of light here. So begin to visualize this ball of light forming here. This ball of light, this wondrous energy, this creator energy comes into our being. It fills our heart chamber, this beautiful center. Now we're going to move that light throughout the whole of our body, blessing all of our cells. Let it fill you. Taking another deep breath and releasing it. Again, return your attention to your heart center. I want you to visualize planet Earth right there inside that light. We're going to bless the Earth, the whole Earth, and all of its creatures, humanity, plants, animals, all kingdoms, with our light, with our love. And we just hold this for a second, sending this energy of love and light to Earth. Breathing in and breathing out. Let that vision just slowly dissolve now into the light. Breathing in and breathing out. We bring our attention back into our bodies. And we come back. We begin to move our body. We wiggle our toes, our fingers, and we just come back to wherever we are. We just say, Amen, and so let it be. I want to thank everyone for joining me this morning here at the Home Center for this service. Have a wonderful and joyful Easter.